Maroondah City Council is committed to achieving a safe, healthy and active community. Using a preventative approach to food safety and public health, our environmental health officers, also known as EHOs, educate and monitor registered food businesses by conducting food safety risk assessments, also known as FSRAs. These assessments play an important part in ensuring food safety standards are upheld and that the community can trust that the food prepared for them by hospitality businesses is safe to eat. Food poisoning outbreaks are not only distressing for consumers, but also have devastating consequences for businesses, impacting revenue and consumer confidence. Given that food poisoning is largely preventable, it's important that food safety risks are identified and managed. Food safety risk assessments help food businesses to identify food handling issues and ensure adequate controls are in place. The program is based on hazard analysis, critical control point principles that requires a systemic identification of critical control points and associated critical limits. At Maroondah, our aim is to educate food businesses to improve their food handling practices. This helps reduce food-borne illness in the local area. So what do Maroondah's environmental health officers look at when conducting an FSRA? They will start by asking you some questions to get an understanding of your business, the types of food you're preparing, and how these foods are processed. A high-risk food item will be chosen from your menu, and you will be asked about the preparation process, how you control any associated risks such as cooking, cooling, and cold storage. Our environmental health officers will identify and explain any actions that are required to control food safety risks. They'll also provide you a report outlining priority actions, including timeframes, to complete those actions. An overall food safety risk rating will also be provided in this report. Lastly, when the EHO returns within the set time period, they will reassess that the actions taken have reduced the risk of unsafe food and ensure that the controls are adequate. Maroondah's EHOs are regularly identifying common controls that are not in place during visits and that are increasing the risk of selling unsafe food. By following some simple steps, your food business will be able to recognise the 5 most common issues and remedy them before your next FSRA. These are temperature control, correct cleaning and sanitising procedures, maintaining fixtures, fittings and equipment, accurate use of thermometers, and understanding food handler hygiene and health practices. Let's start with temperature control. Food businesses are required to keep potentially hazardous food at certain temperatures to ensure that it's safe to eat. Potentially hazardous foods include raw and cooked meats, food containing egg, dairy products, cooked rice and pasta dishes. Temperature control refers to the acceptable temperature limits when storing, displaying or transporting these products. The Australian standards require that hot foods be kept above 60 degrees Celsius, that cold foods are stored below 5 degrees Celsius, and that frozen products are kept below -15 degrees Celsius and frozen solid. Where foods can't be kept under temperature control, the 2-hour, 4-hour rule can be implemented. This rule uses time rather than temperature as a control. In the first 2 hours of food being out, it's okay to use or refrigerate at 5 degrees Celsius or less. Between 2 and 4 hours, the food is okay to use but can't be put back in the fridge. After 4 hours, the food must be thrown away and can no longer be consumed. If you elect to use this method, the procedure must be documented in your food safety program, and food handling staff must be adequately trained. The next most common non-compliance area is cleaning and sanitising. To keep food safe, it's important that food contact surfaces such as preparation benches, food processing equipment and utensils are thoroughly cleaned and sanitised before each use. The 6 steps to cleaning and sanitising are: pre-clean, scrape, wipe or sweep away food scraps, then rinse with water. Wash, use hot water and detergent to take off any deep grease and dirt. Remember to soak if needed. Rinse, rinse off any loose dirt or detergent. Sanitise, use an approved sanitiser to kill any remaining bacteria. Make sure you follow the manufacturer's instructions or the chlorine dilution ratios in your food safety program. Rinse. If required by manufacturer's instructions, rinse off the sanitiser. Dry. Allow to air dry. Further guidance on cleaning and sanitising procedures can be found in your food safety program. If food contact surfaces are not adequately cleaned and sanitised, the surface could then contaminate the food that touches the surface. It's also recommended that during the COVID-19 pandemic, frequently touched surfaces such as tables and chairs, door and cupboard handles, switches and FPOS keypads are cleaned and disinfected several times throughout the day to prevent the spread of bacteria and viruses. It's a requirement under the Food Standards Code that food businesses have designated hand washing facilities for the sole purpose of washing hands. The basin must be easily accessible and have a constant supply of warm running water, as well as liquid soap and paper towel. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the importance of hand washing in preventing the spread of germs, but more on that later. The third area of concern is thermometer usage. A digital probe thermometer must be available to ensure the core temperature of foods can be monitored. High-risk foods need to be regularly checked with a clean, sanitised probe thermometer to make sure they're being kept hot enough or cold enough as outlined in your food safety program. A probe thermometer should also be used to check the temperature of cold storage and hot holding units, as the dial does not always indicate the food temperature. Probe thermometers must be accurate to plus or minus 1 degree Celsius and routinely calibrated to make sure they read the correct temperatures. For further guidance on how to calibrate your thermometer, refer to your food safety program. The fourth area of concern is the maintenance of fixtures, fittings and equipment. It's common to see equipment that is overdue for maintenance, not operating effectively or safely. For example, broken fridge seals, coating peeling off fridge shelving, damaged chopping boards, sensor taps broken, and cracked or deteriorated utensils. Not only do these need to be kept clean, but they also need to be well maintained. It's important to ensure all fixtures, fittings and equipment are suitable and in good working order so that they don't pose any food safety risks. The final topic is food handler hygiene and health. Food handlers need to have the skills and knowledge to handle food safely. Food handling staff need to be aware of their responsibilities and must be familiar with their food safety program. Food handlers who experience any symptoms, such as vomiting or diarrhoea, must inform their supervisor immediately. They must not engage in food handling while ill and should not return to work until at least 48 hours after symptoms stop with a medical clearance. If workers experience any COVID-19 or cold and flu symptoms, they must stay at home and get tested. If a food handler has wounds on their hands or arms, these should be covered with brightly coloured waterproof bandages and ensure a disposable glove is worn and changed regularly so that food is not contaminated. Food handlers must follow good personal hygiene practices and wash their hands regularly with warm water and soap. Hand sanitizer does not replace hand washing. Hand washing should last for at least 20 seconds. A thorough clean cannot be completed in less time. You need to wash your hands before commencing or recommencing handling food, immediately after going to the toilet, immediately after drinking, eating, smoking, coughing or sneezing, after using a handkerchief or tissue, between handling raw and ready-to-eat food, and after touching your hair, scalp, body or face. By requiring food businesses to put in place these food safety controls, we aim to improve food handling practices and ultimately reduce the incidence of food poisoning and unsafe food in the community. For more detailed information on food safety, please visit the Maroondah City Council website. There are links to other useful websites and to the Food Safety Risk Assessment Guide.